have estrogen. As we've learned, anytime estrogen drops and progesterone rises, that's going to cause the endometrial lining to start dying off, become ischemic. That's when we're going to start having muscle contractions to pass the endometrial lining. So if we aren't pregnant, we just have a period. If we are pregnant, we go into full-on labor and we have delivery. So those estrogens are going to increase the sensitivity of that uterine muscle, making it easier for the muscle contract, making it easier for the muscle to contract harder. Again, early pregnancy or other times of the month, that's stopped by progesterone. So as long as progesterone is your dominant hormone, you'll not go into labor. And this is actually something that they have found with some women who have a history of miscarriage. It may due to progesterone levels. So some women, when they get pregnant, they're put on mild doses of progesterone. That way it can help keep that uterus in that quiescent state. If we drop down, that's when you might have spotting or early labors and things like that. So to help stop early labor, you'll get a shot of progesterone to prevent it. We have oxytocin levels. Again, oxytocin is our letdown, our milking hormone. It's also our orgasm hormone and our birthing hormone. So we like to make that thing work really hard for us. So oxytocin levels increase the force of the muscle contractions and the frequency of the muscle contractions of the uterus. And what causes that rise in oxytocin? One, a rise in estrogen. So these two kind of double team you there. Also, cervical distortion, the weight of the baby and all the contents on that cervix, that's going to send a signal up to the brain saying there's something in here that needs to come out, and it increases oxytocin production. This is why a lot of times, again, whenever you're in your last stages of pregnancy and they want you to progress, they'll tell you to walk a whole lot. So like your last month of pregnancy, you're walking all the time. And it's not the walking that's doing it, it's standing upright so the baby's weight is on your cervix versus somewhere else. And then, of course, if you want to trigger delivery, they'll give you Pitocin, which is the drug form of oxytocin, and then they'll make you walk so you make your own oxytocin. So all increasing the chances of those contractions. Yes, ma'am?
Is that right? That you have sex because of the oxytocin that they release?
I've never heard anybody tell you to have sex.
Well, can induce it while they like delivery.
Oh, I heard that.
That's just so damn
No, they
uncomfortable.
just say that.
They do say
I don't remember that.
I'm going to go find my gynecologist and slap him because that wasn't an option. He's like, walk. I'm like, other thing might have been enjoyable. But it could if you can guarantee an orgasm. If you don't have an orgasm, it's just going to be awkward. And of course, you do have to be careful because of angles, pressures.
What? Okay, is it true that you can like?
No, you can't poke your baby in the head with a penis.
Because you said angles, I was like.
You can't do missionary because you're laying flat on the woman. So you don't lay anything flat on the baby because you'll squish it.
Okay.
So you're looking at teeth or doggy style. And that's going to be awkward because you're big belly. Awkwardness. Don't have sex, kids. Causes kids. Horrible cycle. So oxytocin level. So you're supposed to rise it naturally. I guess if that's an option, power to you. Also the fetal pituitary gland. So this is one of the unique things. It's not just mom's body saying get out. It's also baby's body that says I'm ready, let's go. So this is one of those reasons why they just let kids come when it's their time. They know when it's their time. They start releasing oxytocin when they're ready to come out. So if your kid isn't releasing that oxytocin, that's when you get that shot from the doctor to try to replace what that kid should be contributing. Contribute to your own labor, Dan. So again, the kid's pituitary gland's releasing it, your pituitary gland's releasing it. All of that increases those oxytocin levels to help kickstart. And then we have progestaglandins. Again, progestaglandins are just those local hormones that do a whole bunch of random stuff. In this case, they're just going to help amplify the effects of estrogen and amplify the effects of oxytocin. So just kind of get the pot going with those. So each one of those, rising in each of those, are going to make your contractions more frequent, going to make your contractions stronger, to help push the kid out. So our first stage is the dilation stage. This is when you're dilating. I know, shocking. My favorite, I guess, picture of this is whenever it's Halloween time and they always have somewhere there's a pumpkin carving contest and they do the dilation stages for delivery from the delivery section. We've all seen pictures like that. It's where the pumpkin starts off at 1 centimeter. He's like, and then by the time he gets to the 10 centimeters, he's like, ah! And he's like, kid's coming. So you can see that exact dilation stage. So they can get obviously 10 centimeters. It's a big hole for things to come out of. not big enough because you're still gonna have some tearing and some awkwardness, but still. So this phase can be variable in length. Some people may be in the dilation stage for only a couple of hours, especially if it's your third or fourth kid. You're more prone to responding to those hormones, more prone to having faster labor and delivery. So your second and third kid usually has a shorter labor period compared to your first kid. The first kid has to kind of push his way through the whole system and makes way. So it can take a little bit longer. And of course, it may last way longer than 8 hours, with my youngest, because he's going to be late to his own funeral, that kid is. I was a 3 for a month. I know, it's tragic. Every time it'd be like, and you're not dilated. Go walk another month. But 3.5, they go in and they get the kid. So mine just floated at a 3. It's like, get out of my belly.
Did you stay longer?
No, he was on time. He was just at a 3 for freaking month. Like, leave. All right. And he was a low rider anyway, so he was down here instead of up here.
Wasn't that really precious?
I know, it's like, like stop. Yeah, horrible children. My first one was a high rider, which was weird because if I slapped, she kicked my ribs.
What was that for them to like, to lower it in?
It doesn't matter. So it's not a sex thing, because both of mine are boys. It's just how big of a jerk they are.
Which one was the bigger jerk? The one kicking your ribs?
Yes, because he didn't just kick, he stretched. So it'd be like, and then you'd have to tickle his feet for him to tuck back in. So it was,
Did he kick you if you tickle him?
no, he'd be like, it's like, and he had huge feet. And my mom's like, you're just saying that because he's in there. When he came out, she's like, yeah, he's a rabbit. I'm like, I told you he had big feet, had a whole print. My kids popped out in 6-month socks. Okay, they couldn't wear the cute little newborn socks. It's like, bought all these cute little socks for nothing. Weird children can't wear them. It's my fault. I had big feet, so they couldn't have them. Yeah. Size of my children's feet are not on any tests. That's just fun sidebar. Do you ever see them? You're like, I heard you had big feet. Thanks. Mom, what are you telling these people? Too much. That's my job. All right. Late in your dilation stage, you should have your water break. So the amniochorionic or amniotic membrane should rupture. Your water should break towards the end of this. If it doesn't, they'll pop you. So just like it sounds, they'll have a special tool to go in there and whittle around until it thins out and pops on you. There it is, engage, and trying to get out. So we're gonna have that dilation happen bigger and bigger and bigger. And usually by that point, they'll be like, stall, your doctor's still eating lunch. So expulsion stage. So this is when we have the completion of dilation. So the completion of dilation, we've reached 10 centimeters. That's at the end of dilation phase, at the beginning of expulsion stage. This is usually the quicker of the two because we want to get that kid out as fast as possible. It's oftentimes around 2 hours, but again, it depends on you and your kid. They may, linger a little bit longer. There may be problems, that scenario, and you have to go in and rescue. Other times you sneeze and it falls out and you go on from there. So it ends when the baby is blinking at the doctor and everyone oohs and ahs and forgets you exist in that kind of scenario. Things that will help you out. You can have episiotomy. This is cutting of the peritoneal part. So again, there's always going to be tearing because no matter how big you dilate, it's still shoving a watermelon out of the hole of the size of a lemon. So you're still going to have some damage coming out. By having a cut, you can minimize the damage as well as control the damage. So whenever you have a straight cut, it's easier to stitch that back together. If you have a really ragged, jagged cut, then you're not going to be able to use stitches to put you back together. And of course, if you don't control it, you can tear all the way through the rectum, and then you have to have surgery to repair your rectum and your anus, and nobody wants that. Okay? So that's usually the extreme issues. So most women are going to have that episiotomy. By the time this happens, you don't, hopefully you're drugged up enough, and if not, they'll give you a local so you don't feel this one. And it's usually 2 little dissolvable stitches that you just have to take care of and then go away eventually. Cesarean section. So this is, again, short for C-section. And of course, you do need to know the word cesarean because I'm evil. I can put like 4 different C words there. That's what I do. So if we have complications, then you can have an incision to go and remove the baby. And again, sometimes your C-sections are scheduled. Sometimes they're spur of the moment. Oxygen is dropping. We think the baby's having difficulty coming out. Now, obviously, if they've scheduled it, they will try to be as least invasive as possible. So a lot of times they'll do the horizontal hairline cut. That one is going to follow the fissure lines of the collagen in the abdomen. So that helps to promote healing and prevent as much scarring. And even if it does scar, it's right on hairline, so it's not really noticeable for most people. If it's an emergency and they don't have time to worry about it, they may do a vertical cut. The vertical cuts, again, cut through collagen versus between collagen as well as muscle. So vertical cuts tend to scar more, I don't want to say effectively, but they do scar up a whole lot more. They may take longer heal time, and unfortunately, they may lead to further C-sections. So some people, after they've had one C-section, if they don't heal properly or they back-to-back kids, they may have to have a second C-section, and they won't even let them try pushing because of the chancing of popping. So once you've got that scar tissue there, if it's not very stable scar tissue and you try to push, it could pop, and then nobody wants to have ruptured seams, so they'll just do a C-section the second time, third time, fourth time. If you have lots of healing, it's been a long time since your kids, you have minimal scarring, your doctor may try a normal delivery after a C-section delivery. But again, it just depends on you and your body and how you heal. Now, once you get to the uterus, the outside cut doesn't always match the inside cut. So with the way the muscle in the uterus runs, it doesn't matter if it's a horizontal or a vertical cut. They heal roughly the same. Okay, so we're not going to have to worry about that. But again, a lot of times they'll try to do the cut closer to the fundus. That way you're by the baby's feet, less likelihood of damage and stuff if you have a normal delivery, that kind of scenario, and you can pull from there. Sometimes they feel that this is done too often, especially if you want to schedule birthdays around vacation times or your doctor's vacation, stuff like that. And there is benefit for vaginal birth. If you can do the vaginal birth, it does help squeeze the kid and help prepare them for the outside world versus a C-section that may not have all of those same feedbacks coming through during delivery. This is also how some rich people lose their weight real fast, right? So we've all seen the Hollywood people's like, oh, 2 weeks after I have my beach body back. That's because if you do a C-section, you can do a tummy tuck at the same time. It's the same cut and same numbing. So they take the baby, they lipo everything they can, and then they C-section, they tummy tuck through that C-section cut. So that's why they're able to get their beach body back within 2 weeks, and the rest of us feel like deflated balloons for the rest of our lives. They've got surgery to do that, and they've got the money to pay for that extra surgery. So next time rich people are like, oh, I'm able to do this. You're like, yeah, because you probably have surgery, and you have a nanny, and you have a dietitian, and you have a trainer, and you have other people to raise your children other than yourself. And so, of course, they're going to have an easier time. They got money. So things that most people don't have. Cesarean actually comes from Julius Caesar and Cleopatra's son. So their son was named Caesarion before he was wiped out by the age of 13.
Why is it called cesarean?
Caesar named everything under the sun after himself. That's why we have July, Julius Caesar. Because back in the day, December was the 10th month, November was the 9th month, October was the 8th month, September, Septimus was the 7th month, and then Julius Caesar put in his 2 cents. They're like, I want July. So now October is no longer the 8th month, it's the 10th month. Okay? And then we had Augustus Caesar, he brought in August. Freaking Romans, adding months. Okay?
Why was it named after why is it named cesarean?
I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know why the cut was named after the kid. I'm not sure if she had a cesarean section or not. That was very risque back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't live long enough to figure it out because he died at like 13. Don't you hate it when they overthrow the government, kill off all the legitimate heirs, and then put somebody else in place?
Dang.
Yeah, bro, that's what they do. Kill your kids.
Jesus.
Yeah. There they are, coming out. Terrifying. They always look down. It's like they don't want to look at the world. I don't blame them. Okay. And then the placental stage. So at this point, the kid is out. The doctor, or excuse me, the nurse is hosing them off. They're wrapping them up like a little burrito. Everybody's oohing and ahhing by your kid. And now you and your doctor are left alone to get rid of the placenta. So it's not over yet. You got to keep going. So that uterus, again, holding that big baby, is going to start contracting back down to its original size, which is quite teeny tiny. And during those contractions back down, that obviously is going to cause lots of tension that's going to rip off the endometrial lining, the placenta, and start to pass that. So the afterbirth is the placenta along with some of that endometrial lining that's coming off as that uterus starts shrinking down. Now, nowadays they tend to catch those and take them to the lab, because if there's an abnormality with the blood vessels in the placenta, there could be an abnormality with the blood vessels of the baby. So if there's a problem with one, there could be a problem with the other. They also take it to the lab to make sure it's all there. If anything's left behind, it could either cause massive internal hemorrhaging, which can be fatal, or bacterial infections, which also can be fatal. So they're going to make sure everything comes out like it's supposed to and is accounted for. There is no biological reason to eat the placenta. I know for a while that was becoming popular. And they'll argue, it's like, well, animals eat it. Animals eat placenta so predators don't find their babies. So unless you have predators in the vicinity that are going to break into your house and eat your children, there's no need for the placenta to be consumed. If you look at plant-eating animals, they don't consume their placenta typically. They'll just drop and run because they're plant eaters, they drop and run everything. So no biological reason to eat it, right? And again, it's a waste organ. It is basically filtering a whole bunch of stuff. So it's gonna have toxins, it's gonna have some nasty stuff in it. And unfortunately, some of the companies that prepare your placenta for you, there's like the pill people, they don't actually clean anything. They just freeze dry, chop it up, and feed it back to you. So there have been cases where women have gotten massive infections from eating placentas or even placental pills because the FDA and health departments check out the factories that make the placental pills and stuff like that. And of course, if you're breastfeeding, that infection can spread to your baby, and there have been deaths in the past. So there's no biological reason to eat it unless you're just a freak or a Kardashian, which is the same thing.
So from the placenta, you can usually why people like it.
You do have that option. What they do when they harvest cord blood, they'll take the placenta and the stub of the umbilical cord to the lab, and they'll extract the stem cells and then freeze them. Then they toss the organ. So they're not going to keep the whole organ. And normal refrigerators cannot chill to the point necessary to keep stem cells viable. Okay, so we don't have liquid nitrogen coolants in our homes, and most of us don't anyway, unless you're fancy. So you wouldn't be able to freeze your own placenta just in case later that the cells wouldn't be viable.
And they wouldn't be funny off the top.
Yep. So just let it go, man.
My son's granddad had cancer,
Mhm.
and he was telling his mom that he wanted her, I think it was the umbilical cord, because of the stem cells in it. It was something having to do with cancer.
So
It
yeah,
could
you can
help.
use those stem cells to treat different types of cancers. You can use it to donate stem cells for cancer treatments. The trick is, it's just like any other organ transplant. Your kid has to be a match. So he just can't randomly grab somebody's stem cells out of a placenta and run with it. If your kid had the wrong blood type compared to him, it wouldn't match. So you still have to do all the donor processing and make sure that the body would not reject those stem cells. And being a grandchild, there's a greater chance of rejection. Sibling has the best chance of success, and then parent, child have the best chance. But being a grandparent, that's pretty far down the line. So it might be something they could try to explore, but finding a good cell match may not work. And stem cell research, stem cell doesn't always work on all cancers. Depends on the cancer if it works out. So there's blood loss. You got stuff being ripped off, tossed out, all that kind of stuff. But again, your maternal blood has nearly doubled, right? We have over 50% more blood than we had to begin with. So you're going to be able to tolerate that without going into circulatory shocks. But obviously, if you do bleed excessively, then you can have those issues. Now, of course, whenever you're pushing the placenta, you have to push just like you push with the baby. So you're going to have the same kind of contraction issues. You're going to have the same kind of pushing issues. Now, if you are not passing efficiently, again, your doctor can help you along. They'll push on your abdomen, which looks like wrestling moves. All they need is to elbow you and go for it. But they'll push to let it come out. If that doesn't work, there's a machine that will inflate you with water, and they'll push water back into the uterus, which expands it back to pregnancy size, and then suck the water out, then pull it out and suck it out, and that hopefully will loosen up the placenta to let it come out efficiently if it's not detaching from the wall properly. I imagine that'd be really weird because you're huge, and then the baby's out and you're flat, and then they put you back up with water, and then you're flat, and then up with water, and then you're flat, and you're like, just go in after it.
Does it hurt just like a pregnancy? Or like just like
Fortunately, my kids took all their crap with them. At that point in time, hopefully you're medicated and you're not going to feel it, but you've already been stretched, so it shouldn't be painful because it's just reinflating what just deflated on you.
Because she said she saw a video where they were actually like, like they were massaging it, and she said it looked like it hurt.
Oh, yeah, the pushing out, yeah. Massage. Anytime an OBGYN tells you they're going to give you massage, no, it's painful. A cervical massage, they go in, they scrape, and you're like, try to crawl up the wall to get away from it. I had to do that with my first one. But yeah, they don't gently press. They're like pushing the stuff out of you as much, and it's awkward because you can't do anything. So you're like, I'm dying. And they're like, it's not yet, you're not. You're like,
So if you have a cesarean section, are they taking the placenta out with it, or?
yeah, so they'll go in and clean and scoop.
Okay, I just wanted to-
Basically like a DNC, but through the opening instead of through the exit.
Are they pumpkin carving you?
Type in there, I was there. There it is, coming out. I like how they gave her an outie just for funsies, which happens whenever you're pregnant. That way you know your kid's done right. Like on a church with a little thing goes ding. Okay, so baby come out, everything else come out. And then you have the biggest period you've ever had, where your nurse will tell you lovingly things like, for the next 2 weeks, you're going to pass blood clots. Anything bigger than a lemon, come talk to me. You're like, thank you. Maybe. And then, of course, once you're out, you've got stages of life. So the first stage is your neonatal period. For humans, that's up to 1 month after delivery, after birth. This is the most crucial time because, again, while inside, the baby was dependent on mom for everything. And now baby has to breathe on their own and eat on their own and pee and poop on their own. So you have a lot of adjustment period to being basically self-sufficient. Again, they don't have jobs or anything, but they do have to have everything functioning within their body. So it's very common, especially in the first week or two, that the baby might be slightly jaundiced. So it may not be super noticeable unless you take a picture like, well, my kid looks a little yellow. If you're slightly jaundiced, that's okay because the liver's just starting to do its job with functioning and filtering. So a lot of times they'll tell parents to let their kids go outside a whole lot, go for walks, expose them to sunlight, because that breaks down the bilirubin in the skin. That way they don't have any bad side effects. And of course, if it doesn't get better, you go back and you get checked, which is why when you have the new baby, you have pediatrician checkups about every 2 weeks where they're monitoring and managing, making sure the baby's doing what it's supposed to after it's popped out. Now, at this point, we're obviously dependent on mother's milk. There's 2 types. The first one is called colostrum. This is the very first milk that comes through. It only lasts for the first couple of days. This milk is basically like Milk Light. It's almost like 1% milk. So it's going to have a lot more proteins. Those proteins are the antibodies, again, allowing for that passive transference of antibodies from mother to baby, but less fat. So during the first couple of days or even the first week, it's common for that baby not to gain weight and maybe even lose a couple of ounces because they're basically on the fat-free milk diet. So they're not getting that fat for calories. They're just there to transfer those antibodies. And then after about a week or so, you're going to get normal breast milk, and that has full fat. So this is when your kid will start gaining, and depending on you and your nutrients, you'll have varying amounts of stuff coming to your offspring. So again, if you are breastfeeding, it's highly suggested you continue your prenatal vitamins so you have enough nutrients to make milk and not have damage to your body. If you don't get enough calcium, stuff like that, your body will rob you, your skeleton, in order to make that milk. So it is common for women, if they don't get enough calcium, may have issues with bone loss during nursing. They may lose teeth during nursing or not long after because of bone loss, that kind of scenario. So you got to keep up your diet just like you were while you were pregnant. So all those limitations and stuff should still apply because obviously if you eat it, it can end up in your breast milk. So caffeine, drugs, stuff like that. They have found trace amounts of marijuana in breast milk up to 7 days after one joint. So your kid will be very quiet because they're stoned. But they're probably not going to be very well off as they age or have learning issues and stuff like that. So you got to keep it as healthy as you did, if not healthier than when you were pregnant. Infancy lasts until the age of 2. At this point, the child should be weaned. There is no biological reason to be on a bottle after the age of 2. Actually, there's no biological reason to eat milk after the age of 2. All other mammals stop drinking milk after a certain point in time after they've been weaned, but we like ice cream and cheese too much, so we have to deal with that kind of stuff. But you shouldn't be on a bottle. There, again, no biological reason. And of course, once your teeth come in, you should be getting off of the bottle because that can deform your teeth as they're coming in if you're sucking on a bottle or a pacifier.
What about the boob?
Same thing. There's no biological
It'll
reason.
still deform your teeth?
Mhm.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, after the age of 2, it's probably mom's psychological problems that are causing breastfeeding, not baby psychological. But you could scar your kid.
Right.
There's no reason. Most women, not most women, but women who do it excessively, I'm not going to make complete judgment calls, but I'm totally judging in my head. But after the age of 2, the only reason a woman would do this is to lose weight because it does take a lot of calories. But there's no biological reason ever to breastfeed after the age of 2. Even if you look at native tribes in Africa and South America who are hunter-gatherer foragers, they don't breastfeed past the age of 2. And if you look at their kids are usually 2 years apart. So during the last part of one kid, they're getting pregnant with the second kid. So if, it was natural and supposed to happen, you would have people living in the jungle breastfeeding up until 900 or something. So no reason other than psychological problems. Childhood, you grow, I know, shocking, under hormones, like human growth hormone. And then adolescence, where all hell breaks loose, hair comes everywhere, and you automatically know everything, right? Yes, teenage years, I knew that. I know everything. Teenagers. So it begins at puberty. And of course, when you start depends on body conditions. You have to have enough fat to kickstart puberty and the release of follicle-stimulating, luteinizing, interstitial cell-stimulating hormones. So again, with the girls we saw, we had to have at least 17% body fat to kick things going and keep things going. Guys, you do have similar body fats, but we don't dive into those for whatever reasons. So once you hit the right weight, then you can start puberty. So you'll have varying age start points and then end points. It is when your reproductive system becomes activated because crazy is happening. So lots of hormone changes and body changes. Technically, adolescence ends when you stop growing. So when your epiphyseal plates close and you stop growing in height. So again, if you produce lots of hormones when you hit puberty and you stop growing in height at 15, you're biologically an adult. Even though, mentally we're like, no, you're still kids. Some adults grow until the age of 25. Okay, so their plates don't close properly or they don't make enough hormones to close up those plates. So as long as those plates are open, you are technically an adolescent. You're still a teenager, whether or not age-wise, legally-wise, you happen to be. And then maturity. This is physical maturity because mental maturity is optional, right? Yeah, it is. I'm going to check no in that box. So again, growth stops. No more growth in height, but you may have growth in width, but that's completely different, right? It's going to happen. It's going to expand. So enjoy today. This is the smallest you'll probably ever be. I know it's like depression. All right, so we still have physiological changes that continue to happen even though growth has stopped. These changes are all a part of what we call senescence, which is the nice way of saying you're getting old. So feel free to use that one. It's like, oh, you are handling senescence quite well. You're getting old. And that's where we get senility from, senile from. And this stops at death. Because that's, when everything stops.
Yeah.
I have a question. If you feed your male more stuff to produce that produce estrogen in the body, will that keep them growing taller before testosterone actually.
So
Stop
unless you're feeding your son estrogen,
Well, I know there's like foods that help produce estrogen in your body more than others.
bless you.
Dang.
No. It's a myth.
Okay.
I really thought that was true.
No. A lot of your fats, the drug pushers give you, like your vitamin G and C places.
Mhm.
They don't have to take biology. That should be a clue that they're probably not gonna know what's going on in your body. So if you eat a female cow, it's not going to affect your estrogen levels because
Right.
your body is going to break down estrogen in the stomach and consume it as its parts. So it doesn't matter what hormones you eat, you're gonna break them down anyway.
Hmm.
So that's a myth that hormones from cows and stuff are gonna do anything to you. But if you were to pump your son full of estrogen, directly into a vein versus through a digestive system, they would be shorter. Estrogen closes plates faster than testosterone, which is why women are shorter than men. So estrogen has a stronger effect on bone growth than testosterone does.
Hmm.
Why women are short. Guys are tall.
Some.
Except you're just when you're tall.
No,
Yeah.
sure.
Depends on who you compare me to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In my family, I'm tall. Other people's family, not so much.
Review? Review?
You're like, shut up, woman. I want to have a review. All right. Any other questions, comments, guys?
No.
So we do have time for a little bit of a review. Probably not do team things because it'll take like 10 minutes to figure out team things, right? That moves so slowly, team things. So we'll just randomly ask questions and then randomly answer questions. It'll be exciting. Pretend you're excited. Thank you. What is the most common type of acid-base disturbance?
Hmm.
The most common type of acid-base disturbance.
What one are you more likely to get?
Acidosis?
Okay, what was the first one? Respiratory acidosis. So your most common is respiratory acidosis because you're more likely to have breathing problems than kidney problems. Second most common would be metabolic acidosis. Third would be respiratory alkalosis. Rarest would be metabolic alkalosis. In females, what is the product of the mitotic division called? Oh, I know, and I just erased it. In females, what is the product of the mitotic division called?
I don't know how to say it.
Is it?
Can I spell it? O-O-G-O-H-A-N-I-A.
There you go. Oogania. Uh-oh, eggs. Double O means eggs.
Oogania.
So oogania is plural, ooganium is single. So or at the end is going to refer to the mitotic division. What prevents friction between the scrotum and the testes?
Yeah, the raffy.
Got the raffy.
Oh, the tunica.
Tunica vaginalis.
Tunica
So the raffy prevents the
vaginalis.
testicles from touching each other. The tunica vaginalis prevents friction between the scrotum and the testis. Again, because it's that remnant of the peritoneum, so it's got the parietal layer, the visceral layer, the cavity with fluid in between. So that's going to prevent friction as they do their thing within their scrotum. The fetus will look distinctly human for the first time during which phase? Second trimester. That's when you can confirm you're having a human baby and not a shark baby, in case it was the Sci-Fi Channel or something. What cells produce estrogens?
Primary oocytes? Deca cells.
So granulosynthecal cells are going to make estrogen, so they surround the follicle. What will the body lose when it gains sodium? Potassium. What gland in the male produces a milky acidic fluid?
The prostate.
Prostate, that's the only one that makes an acidic fluid.
Okay.
How long does it take sperm to travel through the epididymis?
20, yeah, like 20.
20 days. So 9 weeks to go from oogonium to sperm, and then an additional 20 days to get through the epididymis. So again, when you start making sperm, you're not instantly fertile. You've got a couple of months before you're able to impregnate a female. So hot tubs, as romantic as they might be, might cook your entire batch of sperm, so you may be infertile for the next 2.5 months. Hot tub wisely, if you're trying to get pregnant. Boil them alive if you need to, if you don't want to get pregnant. All's good. Formation of organs is called what? Formation of organs.
Organogenesis.
Organogenesis. What is the leading cause of death from all gynecological malignancies? Ovaries, always causing trouble.
Ovarian cancer. Okay.
Ovarian cancer, the most likely to kill you if you're a girly cancer. Which of the following systems is a derivative of the endoderm? Which of the following systems would be a derivative of the endoderm? Skeletal muscle, the integumentary system, the reproductive system, the cardiovascular system.
Integumentary system?
And what was that question again?
A derivative of the endoderm.
Endoderm. Oh, the skeletal system? No. The muscular system. Skeletal muscular system. What were the options?
Skeletal muscle, integumentary system, reproductive system, cardiovascular system.
Is it the
Reproductive.
damn?
So endoderm does internal linings. So internal linings of the reproductive, urinary, digestive, and respiratory system. So that's the only one that has that. Skeletal muscle all comes from mesoderm. Cardiovascular system is made out of connective tissue and blood vessels and blood and smooth muscle and heart muscle, all coming from the mesoderm. And the integument has the epidermis, which is ectoderm, and the dermis, which is mesoderm. A uterus that bends back towards the sacrum is called what? Retroflex.
Retroflex uterus.
Elevation and flattening of the scrotum and the labia majora happens during which phase?
Excitement.
Excitement. We got to pull everybody up and out of the way so nobody gets injured. The hollow space in the center of a blastocyst is called what? Ooh, blastocele. Seal, so C-O-E-L, always means cavity or space.
Blastocele.
Intercellular fluid would be found where? Inside of the cells. You're like, are you trying to speak? So cytoplasm, cytosol, those guys
Not in the nucleus, but in the cell, right?
in the cell.
In the cell.
Intercell. What muscle helps to adjust the temperature of the testes?
Cremaster.
It's almost like it was a practical question.
Cremaster.
Cremaster muscle.
I agreed, I was just talking about that. The gradual water movement from the skin and respiratory tracts is called what?
Say
The gradual movement of water from the skin and respiratory tract is called what?
Perspiration.
More.
There's more to it. Perspiration osmosis.
Sensible perspiration.
Yeah.
Sensible perspiration.
Not sensible.
Insensible.
Insensible. You can't feel the water leaving your body right now or breathing out
Insensible.
right now. That's insensible perspiration. Sensible is sweat. So you can
Okay.
see it, you can feel it running down your back when you have a day, that kind of scenario. Sticks to your car seats. Sensible. Insensible, can't feel. What is senescence?
Death or going
Aging stuff.
Aging.
aging.
What is the function of the reproductive system?
Perpetuates species.
Yay.
Keep your species going. It's the only one that's not self-serving. Right? You do it for them, not for yourself.
I use that
That
one.
line will never work out anybody, right?
Just do it for the
For the
species.
species.
Let's do it for the species.
When the female and male pronucleus merge, it is called what? Amphimixis. You're mixing it up between
Yeah.
both of them.
Amphimixis.
An acid that can leave solution and enter the atmosphere is called what? Volatile. It poofs. Leaves and goes into the atmosphere just like a big
Volatile acid.
explosion.
Volatile acid.
Volatile acid. Because it's going to blow up. What phase of the ovarian cycle is dominated by follicle stimulating hormone and estrogen?
What phase of
You said what phase? The
follicular?
follicular.
Yeah. Follicular phase is the ovarian phase dominated by follicle stimulating hormone and estrogen.
Follicular.
What is the uterine phase that
Hmm.
is dominated by follicle stimulating hormone and estrogen? So when you're in the follicular phase of the ovaries, what's the uterus doing?
Preparing for pregnancy? No.
No, that's an ovary thing. We're going to now a uterus thing. Proliferative. So while the follicle is developing in the ovary and estrogens are released by the ovary, we're going to have the rebuilding of the functional layer in the uterus, so the proliferative. So the more estrogen, the thicker your lining, the heavier your period. So again, this is why most of your birth control pills limit the amount of estrogen either by keeping it low or by giving you progesterone early so you don't make a thick functional layer so your periods are lighter and less frequent and shorter. Again, that's why it helps with endometriosis and severe periods because it lightens up the load. What connects the epididymis to the ejaculatory duct?
The vas deferens.
Vas deferens. So connecting the epididymis to the common ejaculatory duct would be the vas deferens. Which buffer system is more important in the ICF than in the ECF? No?
Phosphate buffer.
Phosphate buffer. So your protein buffers are pretty much across the board, ECF, ICF, they're going to go back and forth. Your carbonic acid bicarbonate buffer is more important in the ECF. Your phosphate buffers are more important in the ICF. What condition that we've talked about can be cured by putting a paper bag over your face?
What?
Don't
Oh,
say being ugly.
is it hypothermia? Hyperventilation. Hypothermia.
What is the condition?
Okay, the condition.
Respiratory alkalosis. So you have to breathe back in your CO2, which helps you from having too much CO2 expelled. So we're bringing back in that acid to cure the alkalosis component. Which gland is single in the males? Prostate. It's a single donut-shaped gland. Donuts. Oh, that's why you did it, right? They're like little prostate. That will make you not want to eat one.
I'm never eating one again.
I wouldn't go that far. What is the only quick protein buffer in the body?
Yeah.
The hemoglobin buffer system, because it's going to capture those CO2s and drop them off as quick as possible. What hormone will maintain the corpus luteum? We actually have two options in this case. What hormone will maintain the corpus luteum?
The luteinizing hormone?
Luteinizing hormone. What's the other one? HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophic. So that's going to help keep you pregnant longer because the more corpus luteum gets stimulated, the more progesterone you produce, and we're going to keep us in that quiescent state. When should normal detumescence happen in males?
Is it?
When should normal?
No. No.
As a mother of a male, I would.
At the age of 40 or 30, after 30, I think. No. Dang it, I don't know.
But what phase does it happen? Resolution phase. So detumescence is when the erection goes away.
Oh my God.
Just doomed a lot of males.
Oh my
So
God.
your erection should go away during the resolution because you're coming out of being sexually excited and going through those stages and going back to normal day-to-day life. So that's when it should happen. Detumescence in the excitatory or the plateau stage obviously is not convenient.
Detumescence.
What is sloughed off approximately every 28 days? I need more.
Approximately how many days?
28.
Vesicular lining or mucosal lining.
The functional layer, the stratum functionalis, that's what you're going to get rid of during a period. The stratum basale stays in place to rebuild when everything's cleared out. So, the stratum functionalis, the functional layer. What female problem can be caused by depression? We're going to narrow it down to actual physiological problems. Yeah, secondary amenorrhea. Depression and weight loss can cause you to stop producing follicle-stimulating luteinizing hormone. So it's going to stop you from having a period. When you drop weight too quickly, whether they're athletic or starving themselves, or they're just having depression problems that can disrupt the female cycle. Specifically, where will you find the enzymes essential to fertilize an egg?
In a male? Or in
That's
a
not very
fertilize the egg.
specific.
Okay, fertilize the egg. Specifically where you find the enzymes to fertilize it.
I need more specific than that.
What?
There you go, acrosomal cap. So the head of the sperm is going to have the male pronucleus, his DNA, and it's going to have the acrosomal cap, which is the organelle that holds the enzymes necessary to breach the walls, to eat through the follicular fluid, eat through that protective layer around the outside of the egg. So the acrosomal cap is where we find those enzymes. A solid ball of cells is called what? Morula.
Morula.
It's Latin for raspberry. So morula. Almost sounds like where they're going to go find Sauron and the One Ring problem.
Yes.
Scar tissue that no longer produces progesterone is called what? Corpus albicans. So the white body, because again, corpus means body, like Corpus Christi means body of Christ, and albicans meaning white because it's scar tissue. So the corpus albicans, that's what the corpus luteum becomes when it stops producing progesterone. It shrivels up in the ovary.
That's the part that you said in animals, you can tell how many.
Yeah, technically you could count in females too, human female, but nobody does that. You're never gonna have a doctor go, when we removed your ovaries, guess what? We found out you ovulated this many times in your life. I would, but you know, other people. Where does fertilization occur? Don't say the bedroom.
Where does fertilization occur? In
The distal third of the fallopian.
The distal third of the fallopian tube. Okay, so it's going to be in the right by after the fimbrate catch the egg and bring it in. We're going to have fertilization happen there. The rest of the fallopian tube, it's too long away. Your egg would die before it could get fertilized in the lower portions of the fallopian tube.
So it's just the lower portions of the fallopian?
The distal 1/3.
for distal 1/3.
Yeah. Because again, we've got.
Furthest away.
Distal third.
She's got issues. It's gonna happen here. Okay, so you've got the fimbrate, you've got the isthmus, you've got the ampulla, and the infundibulum. So it's usually in the infundibulum where it happens, because by the time we get here, this is day 2, and your egg is dead. So it's only viable for that first 24 hours being shot off. That's where it's gonna happen.
Distal 1/3. Or the
Distal third.
ampulla. Or the, wait, what is it? What is it again? The
Distal third.
Fallopian. infundibulum.
Fallopian.
Infundibulum.
CPR is a cure for what problem? Don't say not breathing. Acute respiratory acidosis. So that's the problem with not breathing. Not only you're not getting oxygen, you're building up CO2 in high amounts that can kill the cells outright. So you got to fix that problem by getting CPR going. So it gets the respiratory pump going so the blood can circulate, so the air can come in and out of the lungs so we can drop off that CO2. What is the most common cancer in young males? Testicular cancer, because again, cancer increases activity when it's exposed to testosterone. Testosterone stimulates a lot of cell growth, a lot of tissue growth, and guys produce a lot of testosterone when they're younger. So between 20 and 35, you're going to have high amounts or more amounts of testicular cancer than anything else. And then they kind of switch gears as the male ages, making less testosterone, so other cancers get to come in and cause havoc. When will a woman produce oogonia?
Before birth.
Before birth, okay? A lot of female reproductive effort happens before she's even born, which is again why we be crazy and we have more problems with fertility issues because we be crazy, hormones, ovaries, uteruses, eggs hatching too soon. Not really hatching too soon, but we do produce most of our stuff through those stages before you're even born. Big bad hairy questions. All right, so again, test 5 is open, closes tomorrow. Good luck, may the force be with you. Again, acid-base, ion fluid issues, reproductive development. Tomorrow, no classes. Make sure you get all of your online assignments. There are so few of you that haven't even looked at the online assignments at all.
What?
You're gonna have a busy day. After that,
Huh?
Are you one of those that didn't look at your
And if you have a major
That had what?
practical, come forth and we will schedule that.
I have
And then Thursday,
5
I
of
will
them
see
done.
you in here for the final.
Not me.
Some of them haven't even opened them.
This
One,
I
you
did
can
this
see
chat.
if you opened it.
Jesus.
It was because I was.
I started the first 3 and then kind of put the rest off, and then I finished number 5 this morning.
I did 9 and 10, well,